Hey, good morning to you on a Wednesday. Good to be with you for today's edition of Breakfast with Jesus. I hope you're well fortified. Yeah, it's one of those mornings, boy. We had a thunderstorm come rolling through here wee hours of the morning, and boy, it's amazing how that messes up your sleep. But what are you gonna do? So we're maybe operating on a little less than ideal conditions this morning. I know I am. It's like, all right, Lord, need your joy, need your strength, because I could go to sleep pretty quick here. So that's just the way it is. But it's a good day because it's always a good day when we get to hang out with him and with each other. So good morning to Jackie and Jane. Good to see you guys. Donna and Rika. Wow, Rika, good to see you. Donna, good morning. And Derek, my breakfast club. Good to see you guys. So we are now into the thick of it here in Mark chapter 14. You know, this is where it all just starts to get very very heavy. Um, if you've ever watched the Passion of the Christ movie, that wow, quite I think an accurate depiction of what it must have been like for Jesus. So let's just jump in. We're going to start at verse 32. It says, they came to a place named Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, sit here until I have prayed. And he took with him Peter and James and John and began to be very distressed and troubled. And he said to them, my soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch. And he went a little beyond them and fell to the ground and began praying that if it were possible, the hour might pass by him. And he was saying, Abba, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. And he came and found them sleeping and said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep watch for 1 hour? Keep watching and praying that you may not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came a third time and said to them, are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Arise, let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand. And immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, came up, accompanied by a multitude with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Wow. I like to use my imagination, as you probably do as well. And, you're trying to picture what this was like. And that's why, having seen the Passion of the Christ, it kind of gives a little bit of extra help in that regard. But, Jesus right now is clearly facing this impending time where he is going to be suffering in ways that for us are incomprehensible, and while he probably didn't know fully what it was going to look like or feel like, he knew enough that this was going to be difficult beyond belief. And so he's got his guys with him, and then he takes Peter, James, and John a little further along. These three were really his closest companions. He had close relationships with all the discipleships, obviously being with them for 3 years, but had developed an even closer relationship with Peter, James, and John. So he takes them with him. They go a little further along, and he says to them, guys, I just need you to watch and pray. he goes further along and begins this gut-wrenching conversation with his Abba, with Father. Abba is the Greek word for daddy. And, you just feel that, daddy, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, right? But as we all know, he prays, not what I desire, not my will, but yours be done. And in that hour of his pre-crucifixion agony, I don't know, I like what Luke records about this in his gospel. This is from Luke 22. He prays the same prayer, Lord, if you're willing, remove this from me, but not my will, but yours be done. And verse 23 says, now an angel from heaven appeared to him, strengthening him. And being in agony, he was praying very fervently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling down upon the ground. I mean, that I try to imagine that, right? I try to, what would that have been like? What level of intensity is required for the capillaries, those tiny little blood vessels that are just under the surface of your skin, to burst and to be, the blood released into your sweat? It's hard to comprehend, but that's what Jesus was going through. And, as I was looking over this passage again, in thinking about what I'm supposed to share with you this morning, and, it was so clear that in this hour of his greatest agony before the agony of the crucifixion, he was effectively alone, abandoned by his closest friends. Even the three that were the closest to him weren't able to be there for him at that time. And, I think that's part of what Jesus experienced on our behalf, because, listen, it's obvious we'll never have to go through the level of this intensity that Jesus experienced here, in the Garden of Gethsemane. That'll never be our experience. But in that experience that Christ had of being abandoned effectively, by his closest friends in his greatest hour of need, we can understand and recognize that what he experienced in that time, where the Father met him. Okay, as Luke says, there was an angel that came to comfort and strengthen him at that time, because nobody else was there to do it. No one else was there praying for him, right? That was what he was asking. You guys, please pray for me. This is the most difficult thing that I'm ever going to experience here in my earthly life, and I just need you to pray for me. I need you to keep watch and pray, right? And they were not able to do that. I think this was part of the spiritual warfare that was happening around Jesus at this time. The disciples just were incapable of dealing with it, and they fell asleep. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I mean, there's been times when I know that I should be praying, I know that I should be engaged here, but you just feel so fatigued, you feel so I don't know, it's hard to express, but you're just so tired, and all you want to do is shut your eyes and just sleep, and so I know what that feels like. And that's what these guys were going through. They were humanly incapable of doing what Jesus needed them to do for him. And we all go through times in our life when it feels like that, where we feel like no one cares, no one's there. It's just me and my situation and me and God. If you were aware enough, in that time to recognize that, okay, Lord, there's nobody here. No one's here for me except you. And that's really the takeaway from this situation that Jesus was in, that there may come times, and you probably have had times when no one was there, for whatever reason. You know what I mean? In our humanity, even though we're, as Christians, we're not supposed to use our humanity as an excuse any longer, we still do. It's still part of our experience. And so for whatever reason, when we go through times when it feels like no one's there for us, what we see here is that the Father never abandons us. He never abandoned Jesus in this time. He was there. There was that exchange of strength and love and comfort that took place literally in Jesus' darkest hour. And so, as we approach that, as we experience that kind of a situation, we can take comfort in that knowledge that people are not going to be consistent all the time. And we know that this is not news, that people will disappoint and fail in their commitments, their whatever they promise, whatever they say. Stuff happens. And we have to, if we're going to be successful in navigating these kinds of things, we've got to learn not to place all of our expectations on people. If you've been part of this program for any length of time, you know that I place a high value on relationship, because we need each other. We need to have people in our lives if we're going to be successful to get where God's calling us. We need the right people around us, right? So that's just a huge value that I believe the Lord has for us. And I talk about that a lot. But when it's not happening for whatever reason, right? When the relationships just seem to melt away, we've got to recognize that our only recourse is to go to Him and say, okay, you will never fail me. You will never leave me. You are here when no one else seems to be. And if we recognize that in advance, it will help us to avoid becoming bitter, resentful, angry over the failings of people. It's going to happen. It's happened to you, and it'll probably happen again. It's happened to me. It's probably going to happen again. We're dealing with flawed people. We're all flawed. We all are imperfect. We don't do this thing perfectly. So I need to settle in my own heart and mind that when it happens, not if, but when it happens, I can look at what Jesus experienced here and know that that is available to me as well. It's available to you, that we can go to the Father. And I just need you now, Lord. I just need you now, because there's nobody else I can go to. And in doing that, to have that expectation that He will meet us there, in that place, in that seemingly dark hour, that situation, whatever it might be, He will not abandon us. See, that is, for me, the lesson of what Jesus experienced. Because we've got to remember that His life here on earth goes far beyond merely being an example. We have the same Holy Spirit in us and upon us as He did. And so what He experienced, what He went through, becomes the possibility, the potential that we have available to us in our lives. We know that the Father's desire for us is to become fully conformed to the image of Christ. That's what he's after. That's what he's doing in each of us, day by day, moment by moment. It's a transformation process. So we've got to look at this kind of a situation that Jesus went through, even though we may never go through exactly the same kind of intensity that he did. And I just don't think that that's even possible at this point, right? Because of how Jesus went through it to deal with sin. But whatever level approaches that, we are now assured that when there's nobody else for us, the Father is there. Holy Spirit is there. We are never alone. We're never abandoned. And we might even have an angel come show up to bring that extra measure of presence, comfort, love into the midst of that situation. And so that encourages me greatly, that I can look at what Jesus endured for us and know that if that ever happens to me, I know it'll never be, as intense as what he went through, but at whatever level that happens to me, I can rest assured that what he experienced is available in my life and yours. And that's huge. That's the love of the Father for us. Jesus said, I will never leave you or forsake you. Right? I'll not leave you as orphans. I'll come. Talking about after he was resurrected, I will come to you. And so those words of comfort, those words of assurance are ours in whatever the dark hours that we may experience in our lives. And man, that is just, wow. It's just so encouraging to know that he will be for us what he was for his son there in the Garden of Gethsemane. So be encouraged, my friends. My goodness. Let me say good morning to the rest of our crew here. We've got, let's see, Marie, good morning. Leonora, good to see you. There's Danka, how are you? Good morning. And Irina, how are you? My goodness. So thank you all. I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy day to hang out and, be my Share Bear buddy, share the video. We'll get a few others to find out about this and hopefully jump in. And if you'd like to chat, my email is there. You can also send me a Facebook private message. And as always, we've got all these videos are now posted over on the Breakfast with Jesus 247 Facebook page. So you're welcome to take a look and catch up on any of the episodes that you've missed. So listen, I hope you have a great day. It looks like we're going to have some summer weather finally, which will be nice. And look forward to being back with you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern. And until then, you be blessed.